At my husband's funeral, I saw him in the crowd. I'm glad you're here with me. Please listen to my story until the end and let me know which city you're listening from in the comments. What I'm about to tell you changed everything. I thought I knew about my life, my family, and the man I'd been married to for 23 years. It was raining that morning. Not the dramatic pounding kind of rain you see in movies, but that fine, steady drizzle that soaks through black coats and skin alike. The kind that makes everything feel gray and hopeless. The church smelled of lilies and wet umbrellas, and people whispered in clusters, hugging each other, avoiding my eyes like grief was contagious. I barely registered any of it. My husband's coffin stood in front of me, covered with white roses. His sister Linda's choice, not mine. I kept staring at those flowers, thinking about how Michael had always hated white roses. He said they looked sterile, like something you'd see in a hospital waiting room, not a celebration of life. That detail haunted me as I sat there in the front pew. It was such a small thing, but it felt wrong, like the whole ceremony was slightly off. Like a photograph printed with the wrong color balance. When Pastor Williams started speaking, his voice became background noise. The sound of raindrops on the stained glass windows seemed louder than his eulogy. My daughter Emma sat beside me, her hand squeezing mine so tight it hurt, but I barely felt it. My mind was somewhere else, replaying the past week over and over, searching for something I couldn't name. The car accident. Route 27, late at night. Vehicle fire so intense they identified the body through dental records. But Michael never took Route 27. He hated that stretch of road, called it a death trap. Too dark, too isolated, no cell service. In 15 years of driving home late from the office, he'd never once used that route. So why that night I was still turning that question over in my mind when I saw him. He was standing near the back of the church, half hidden behind two men from his law firm. For a moment, my brain simply refused to process what my eyes were seeing. I blinked hard, thinking it was some trick of the light, some grief-induced hallucination. But when I looked again, he was still there. Michael, my husband, alive. His face was thinner, paler, maybe with dark circles under his eyes I didn't recognize, but it was unmistakably him. The same slight crook in his nose from a basketball injury in college. The same way he stood with his weight on his left leg. The same Michael who was supposed to be dead in the coffin 15 feet in front of me. Our eyes met across the crowded church. That calm, deliberate look I'd known for over 2 decades. No panic, no fear, just focus. The same look he'd give me when Emma was little and having a tantrum in public, silently communicating, "I've got this. Stay calm." Then slowly and deliberately he raised one finger to his lips. "Don't speak." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the pew in front of me, my knuckles turning white. My heart hammered so hard I thought everyone around me must be able to hear it. He was alive. My husband was alive, standing in the back of his own funeral. Before I could move, before I could even catch my breath, someone touched my shoulder. "Elizabeth, honey, you should sit down." It was Linda, Michael's older sister. She leaned in close, her voice dripping with concern, but her hand on my arm was firm, almost possessive. "You look pale. This must be so overwhelming." I nodded mechanically and sat, my eyes darting back to where Michael had been standing. The spot was empty. I searched the faces in the crowd. Lawyers from the firm, neighbors, distant cousins I hadn't seen in years. No one looked back at me. No one seemed to have noticed anything unusual. Maybe I really had imagined it. Maybe grief had finally cracked something fundamental inside my mind. The service ended in a blur. I moved through the receiving line like a ghost accepting condolences I didn't hear, hugging people whose names I couldn't remember. Everyone murmured the same phrases. "He was such a good man. He'll be missed. We're here for you." My daughter Emma clung to her husband Alex, whose arms stayed protectively around her shoulders. He was being the perfect son-in-law, thanking people for coming, accepting their sympathies on our behalf. But I noticed something I'd missed before. The way his eyes kept flicking to me. Watching. Calculating. Outside, under the gray November sky, Linda appeared at my elbow again. She seemed to materialize out of nowhere. "Elizabeth, you shouldn't drive alone today," she said, her voice gentle, but leaving no room for argument. "Why don't you come with me? Alex can take Emma home." I forced myself to smile. "I appreciate that, Linda, but I need a little time to myself. I'll be fine." Her eyes narrowed just for a fraction of a second before her expression softened again. "Of course, dear. I understand. Just don't isolate yourself too much. Grief does strange things to people when they're alone. She squeezed my arm and walked away, her black umbrella tilting like a shadow following her across the parking lot. When the crowd finally thinned, I stepped to the side, pretending to adjust my coat, and pulled out my phone with shaking hands. A new message blinked on the screen. Unknown number. I opened it. "Run. They're watching us." My breath caught in my throat. The message had come through exactly 2 minutes ago while I was still accepting condolences. I stared at those 4 words until they blurred. They're watching us. Us. That single word hit me like an electric shock. Whoever sent this wasn't just warning me. They were including themselves with me. And there was only one person who would phrase it that way. Michael. My hands trembled as I looked up, scanning the parking lot. A few people still lingered by their cars, talking softly, sharing memories. Everything looked normal. Then I noticed a black SUV parked across the street, engine running, despite no one visible inside. The tinted windows reflected the gray sky like mirrors, but I could feel someone watching from behind that glass. I looked away quickly, trying to keep my breathing steady. Linda and Alex were still near the church entrance, talking in low voices. Linda said something and Alex nodded, then both of them glanced in my direction. It felt like a trap closing around me. I forced my feet to move, walking as normally as I could toward my car. My fingers were so cold I dropped my keys twice before managing to unlock the door. The moment I got inside, I locked it and started the engine with trembling hands. Another message appeared on my phone. "Don't go home." I stared at those 3 words, my heart pounding. In my rearview mirror, I could see Linda and Alex walking toward their car now. Not rushing, not slow, just purposeful. Still watching me. I didn't think. I just put the car in drive and pulled out of the parking lot, my tires splashing through puddles. I drove through the rain-blurred streets of a town that suddenly felt foreign, even though I'd lived here for over 20 years. My husband was alive. Someone was watching me. And whatever this was, it had started long before today. As I approached the intersection, trying to decide where to go, my phone buzzed again in the cup holder. Trust no one. Not even them. Not even them. I thought about Linda's perfect sympathy, her insistence on being involved in every decision since Michael's death, the way she'd planned the funeral without really asking what I wanted, how she'd chosen those white roses. I thought about Alex, my son-in-law of 3 years, who'd been so helpful, so present, always offering to handle Michael's unfinished business at the firm, the way his eyes tracked me at the funeral. I thought about Emma, my own daughter, who'd seemed distant lately, frightened even though she tried to hide it. The 3 people who'd been closest to me since Michael died. Always near. Always guiding my every move. Suddenly, every comforting gesture looked like choreography. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't go home, the message had been clear about that. Instead, I checked into a small motel on the edge of town, the kind of place where the clerk doesn't look up from his phone when you pay in cash. The room smelled faintly of bleach and old carpet, but it had a lock on the door and curtains I could close. That was enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, my coat still on, staring at my phone. 3 messages from an unknown number. 3 warnings that made no sense and perfect sense at the same time. Around 3 in the morning, when exhaustion finally pulled me under, I dreamed of Michael standing in the rain outside our house, tapping on the window, but making no sound. In the dream, I couldn't tell if he was trying to get in or trying to warn me to get out. I woke with a start at dawn, my heart racing. The rain had finally stopped. Pale morning light filtered through the thin curtains, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The funeral, Michael's face in the crowd, the messages. I made instant coffee with the motel's ancient coffee maker and sat at the small table trying to think clearly. If Michael was alive, and I was now certain he was, he had a reason for hiding. A reason important enough to let his own wife believe he was dead. To let Emma grieve her father. And if he'd warned me to run, that meant the danger was real. But danger from whom I opened my laptop and searched for the accident report. It was public record, easy to find. Local attorney Michael Hayes found dead after single vehicle accident on Route 27. Vehicle fire. Body identified through dental records. I stared at that last line. Dental records. On impulse, I called Dr. Patterson's office. His receptionist, Mary Beth, answered on the second ring. I'd known her for 15 years. Dr. Patterson's office, how may I help you? Mary Beth, it's Elizabeth Hayes. I have a question about some dental records. Oh, Elizabeth. Her voice immediately softened. I'm so sorry about Michael. How are you holding up? As well as can be expected, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm calling because the coroner's office said they received Michael's dental records from your office for identification purposes. I just wanted to confirm when that request came through. There was a pause. That's strange. We haven't sent any records to the coroner's office. Not recently, anyway. My pulse quickened. Are you sure? Positive. I handle all record requests myself. The last time we sent anything for Michael was about 2 years ago when he switched insurance companies. Could someone else in the office have... Elizabeth, I'm the only one with access to those files. If records went out under our name, I would know about it. I thanked her and hung up my hands, shaking again. Not from fear this time. From anger. Someone had falsified the dental identification, which meant someone with connections, someone with access to official channels had orchestrated Michael's death, or at least the appearance of it. I pulled up the police report again, reading it more carefully this time. The accident was reported at 11:42 p.m., but the coroner's report listed the time of death as 12:06 a.m., and the coroner's office was 15 miles from the crash site. How could they determine time of death 15 miles away from where the accident happened? I grabbed my notebook, an old habit from my teaching days, and started making a list. Things that don't add up. Michael never took Route 27. Dental records falsified. Time location discrepancy in reports. Funeral arranged too quickly. 3 days. Linda made all decisions without consulting me. White roses, Michael hated them. I stared at that last item. It seemed trivial compared to falsified death records, but Michael had always said truth was in the details. The small things that didn't fit were often the most important. My phone buzzed. My heart jumped, thinking it might be another message from the unknown number. But it was Linda. "Sweetheart, are you home? I'm worried about you. Let me bring you some lunch. You shouldn't be alone." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Thank you, Linda. I'm fine. I just need some time alone." Her response came almost immediately. "Of course, but please don't shut us out. We're family. We love you." We love you. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like a threat. 2 hours later, I received another message from the unknown number. "They know you're asking questions. Be careful." I looked out the motel window. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few cars scattered around. But there in the far corner was a silver sedan that hadn't been there an hour ago. The driver was sitting inside looking at his phone, but he never started the engine. He was watching. I stepped back from the window, my mind racing. I needed help. Someone I could trust. But who? Not Linda. Not Alex. Maybe not even Emma if she was as monitored as I was beginning to suspect. Then I remembered Theodore Blackwood, Michael's colleague at the firm, one of the few people Michael had genuinely respected. They'd worked together on several cases over the years. I searched for his name online, and my blood ran cold. Theodore Blackwood, 41, reported missing. Last seen November 3rd, 1 week before Michael's accident. This wasn't a coincidence. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Theodore tried to run. Don't make the same mistake. Stay smart. Stay hidden. I'll contact you when it's safe." I sat back down on the bed, my whole body shaking now. 2 men, both connected to the same law firm. One missing, one supposedly dead. What had they found? What had they known? And more importantly, who were they? As the afternoon light faded, I opened Michael's email account on my laptop. I knew his password. He'd never been good at security, always using the same combination of Emma's birthday and our street number. His inbox had been wiped clean. Every folder empty, except one. Hidden at the bottom of the sidebar was a folder labeled Archive. I'd never seen it before. Inside were 3 emails from Theodore Blackwood sent in the days before Michael's accident. I opened the most recent one, dated 3 days before the crash. "Michael, you were right about the contracts. I've been going through the files you sent. They've been moving money through shell companies for months, maybe longer. And Michael, Alex's name is on half of these transactions. I'm leaving town tonight. You should too. Destroy everything." I read it 3 times, each word sinking in like a stone dropping into dark water. Alex, my son-in-law, Emma's husband. He wasn't just involved. His name was all over it. I opened the other emails. More details about falsified transactions, offshore accounts, money disappearing from client funds. and one name that appeared again and again, Collins Property Holdings. Linda's family trust, the company she'd inherited from her father and built into a real estate empire. My sister-in-law, my son-in-law, both involved in whatever had forced Michael to fake his death, and my daughter caught in the middle. I closed the laptop and sat in the growing darkness listening to my own breathing. For the first time since the funeral, I didn't feel lost. I felt angry. They thought they could make me believe the lie. They thought grief would make me compliant, easy to manage. They were wrong. I picked up my phone and opened a new note, typing quickly. What I know. Michael is alive. Theodore is missing, probably dead. Linda and Alex are involved in financial fraud. They faked Michael's death to silence him. They're watching me to make sure I don't find out what I need to do. Find proof they can't deny. Protect Emma. Find Michael. Surviva. I saved the note and stood up, looking out at the darkening parking lot. The silver sedan was still there. Let them watch. Tomorrow I would start fighting back. And this time I wasn't going to play by their rules. The next morning I left the motel before dawn. The silver sedan was gone, but I wasn't naive enough to think I wasn't being followed. I'd learned a long time ago that the best way to hide wasn't to run it, was to blend in. So I drove to a busy shopping center parked near the entrance and waited. At 8:47 a.m., my daughter called. Mom, where are you? Emma's voice was tight, strained. Aunt Linda said you weren't answering your door this morning. So Linda had already tried to find me. That was fast. I'm fine, sweetheart, I said, keeping my voice calm. I just needed some space. You understand, don't you? Space from what? There was something in her tone I couldn't quite read. Fear, frustration. Mom, everyone's worried about you. Alex thinks, what does Alex think? I asked, perhaps too sharply. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, he thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown. Of course he did. That's exactly what they wanted everyone to believe. Emma, I need to see you, I said. Just you, not Alex, not Linda. Can you meet me somewhere? Another pause. I could hear muffled voices in the background, Alex asking who she was talking to. Okay, Emma whispered. The cafe on Merchant Street. The one near the library. 1 hour. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my car for a moment, my heart pounding. Emma had agreed too quickly, too easily. Either she wanted to see me as badly as I wanted to see her, or this was a trap. The cafe was one of those cozy places with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Emma was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner booth, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup she wasn't drinking. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes' hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, so unlike the put-together daughter I knew. When she saw me, something crumpled in her face. Mom, she breathed. I slid into the booth across from her, reaching for her hand. Are you okay? Am I okay? She laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Dad's dead, you've disappeared. Alex keeps saying you're not stable, and Aunt Linda won't stop calling me, asking if I've heard from you. So no, Mom, I'm not okay. I squeezed her hand. I know this is hard, sweetheart, but I need you to listen to me very carefully, and I need you to tell me the truth. Emma's eyes widened slightly. The truth about what? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. At the funeral, did you see anything unusual? Anyone who shouldn't have been there? She pulled her hand back, wrapping both arms around herself. Mom, you're scaring me. Emma, please. This is important. She looked down at her coffee, her jaw working like she was trying to decide something. When she finally looked up, there were tears in her eyes. Dad came to see me, she whispered. 2 weeks before the accident. My heart stopped. What? He showed up at my apartment when Alex was at work. He seemed different. Scared, maybe. He said he needed to tell me something, but I had to promise not to tell anyone. Not even you. I could barely breathe. What did he say? Emma's voice dropped even lower. He said if anything happened to him, I needed to protect you. He said some people at the firm were involved in something bad and he was going to expose them, but... She wiped her eyes. He said it might get dangerous. He asked me if I trusted Alex. And what did you say? I said of course I trusted him. Alex is my husband. Her voice broke. But Dad just looked at me with this sad expression and said, you'll have to decide that for yourself. The pieces were falling into place now, terrible and clear. Did you tell Alex about this conversation? Emma shook her head. I tried to ask Dad what he meant, but he wouldn't explain. He just hugged me really tight and said— She paused, swallowing hard. He said, "Whatever happens, remember that everything I do is to keep you and your mother safe, even if it doesn't look that way." Emma. I reached across the table, gripping both her hands. "Your father is alive." She jerked back like I'd slapped her. "What, Mom? No. That's not— I saw him at the funeral. I know how that sounds, but it's true. And he's been sending me messages." I pulled out my phone and showed her the texts from the unknown number. She read them, her face going pale. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. "Why would he fake his death?" "Because he found something. Something big enough that the people involved were willing to kill to keep it hidden. Theodore Blackwood is missing Emma, and I found emails between him and your father about financial fraud at the firm, about money being laundered through shell companies." Emma's hands trembled. "What does this have to do with Alex?" This was the part I'd been dreading. Theodore's email mentioned that Alex's name appeared on many of the transactions. He's involved Emma. Your husband is part of whatever your father was trying to expose. "No." Emma stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "No, that's not possible. Alex wouldn't— Emma, sit down, please." She sat, but she looked like she might bolt at any second. "I know this is hard to hear," I said gently. "But think about it. Has Alex been acting differently? Taking calls he doesn't want you to hear? Meeting with Linda more often?" Emma's face told me everything before she spoke. "He's been distant the last few months. I thought it was just work stress." She pressed her hands to her face. "Oh, God. When Dad died, Alex was the one who insisted on handling everything. The paperwork, the arrangements. He said it was to help you to take the burden off you, but he was controlling the narrative," I finished, making sure nothing looked suspicious. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of betrayal settling over both of us. "What do we do?" Emma finally asked, her voice small. "We find your father, and we get proof. Real, undeniable proof that we can take to someone who isn't involved." "But how? We don't even know where he is." I thought about that booth at the church, Michael's deliberate gaze. "He'll find a way to contact us. He already has. We just need to be patient and careful." Emma nodded slowly, then looked at me with fierce determination I hadn't seen since she was a little girl refusing to give up on learning to ride a bike. "I'm with you, Mom. Whatever we need to do." I felt tears prick my eyes. "We can't let Alex know you know. You have to go home, act normal." "How am I supposed to act normal when my husband might be a criminal and my father is hiding from people who want to kill him?" "The same way I've been acting normal for the past week," I said. "One breath at a time, and we protect each other. If anything feels wrong, if you feel unsafe, you text me a code phrase, something simple." Emma thought for a moment. "I miss Dad's cooking." I smiled despite everything. Michael had been a terrible cook. It was a family joke. "Perfect. And if I'm in trouble, I'll text remember to water the plants." We didn't have any plants. Emma managed a weak smile. "We sound like spies." "We're just two women who want the truth, and who refuse to be pawns in someone else's game." For the next 2 days, I lived like a ghost. Different motels each night, paying cash, avoiding cameras. I spent hours going through Michael's files, piecing together the pattern of fraud. Colin's Property Holdings had been running a sophisticated scheme buying properties with client money, then selling them to shell companies at inflated prices. The difference went to offshore accounts. Millions of dollars all carefully hidden in the maze of legal paperwork. And Alex had signed off on dozens of these transactions as legal counsel. On the 3rd morning, I received a text from Emma. "I miss Dad's cooking." My blood went cold. I called her immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Then a message from the unknown number. "She's safe, but they're suspicious. Go to the church. Same place we first met. Be there at noon." I checked the time. 10:47 a.m. I had just over an hour. The church was nearly empty when I arrived. A few elderly parishioners were arranging flowers near the altar. I walked past them, trying to look like I belonged there, and made my way to the small chapel off to the side. This was where Michael and I had been married 23 years ago. A simple ceremony with 20 guests, nothing fancy. Just us promising to love each other for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. I sat in the same pew where we'd exchanged vows, my heart hammering, and waited. At exactly noon, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. Michael stood in the doorway looking like a ghost of himself, thinner, unshaven, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. But his eyes, those eyes I'd looked into across 1,000 breakfast tables through Emma's childhood illnesses and teenage dramas through promotions and disappointments, those eyes were the same. "Elizabeth," he said, and his voice cracked. I stood up, my legs shaking. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then I crossed the distance between us and slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed in the small chapel. Michael didn't flinch. He just looked at me with such profound sadness that I almost apologized. "I deserved that," he said quietly. "You deserved worse." My voice was shaking with fury and relief and love and betrayal all mixed together. "I thought you were dead. I buried you. Emma buried you. I know. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" I stepped closer. "Sorry doesn't cover this, Michael. You let us grieve. You let us believe." I had no choice. His voice rose, then dropped again. "Elizabeth, they killed Theodore. Staged it to look like suicide, but I know better. When I found out what they were doing, I confronted Linda. She didn't deny it. She said I could either join them, keep quiet, or disappear. She said those were my only options. So you chose to disappear, without telling me. If they knew you knew I was alive, they would have used you to find me. Or worse." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I've been watching you every day. Every single day. Following you, making sure you were safe. That text at the funeral, I saw the way Linda and Alex were closing in on you. I couldn't let them—" "Emma knew," I interrupted. "You told her." Michael's face went pale. "How did you—" "She told me, 2 days ago." "Did you know Alex has been monitoring her, that she's been living in fear, not knowing if she could trust her own husband?" "I told her to be careful around him. I tried to warn her without—" "Without what?" "Without trusting either of us to handle the truth." I felt tears burning my eyes. "We're not children, Michael. We're your wife and your daughter. We deserve to know." He slumped against the pew. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I thought I was protecting you, but all I did was leave you vulnerable." He looked up at me. "How much do you know?" "Enough. Collins' property holdings, the shell companies, the money laundering, Theodore's emails, Alex's involvement." I sat down beside him, suddenly exhausted. "What I don't know is who else is involved and how deep this goes." Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "Elizabeth Alex isn't what you think he is. I know exactly what he is. A criminal who married our daughter to—" "He's FBI." The words hung in the air between us. "What Alex Chen is an undercover agent with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. He's been embedded in the firm for 2 years, building a case against Linda and the others involved in the scheme." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Michael continued, his voice heavy. "Theodore and I weren't the only ones investigating. The FBI had been watching Collins' property holdings for years. When Alex and Emma met, it wasn't random. He was assigned to get close to the family, but then he paused. Then he actually fell in love with her, and everything got complicated. Does Emma know? No. Alex wanted to tell her, but the FBI wouldn't allow it. Too risky. If she knew and acted differently around Linda, the whole operation could collapse. I thought about Emma's face in the cafe, the betrayal in her eyes when I told her Alex might be involved in the fraud. So we let her believe her husband is a criminal. We let her stay safe, Michael corrected. The FBI is planning raids on Collins Holdings and the associated companies, but they needed more time to trace all the offshore accounts to make sure everyone involved goes down at once. When Theodore died, I realized I was next, so I staged the accident with Alex's help. You and Alex planned this together. Yes. The burned car, the falsified records, all arranged through FBI channels. I had to disappear completely. Linda had to believe I was dead so she'd get sloppy, move forward with her plans without worrying about me exposing her. I pressed my hands to my face, trying to process this. And the messages, the warnings. When I saw you at the funeral, I realized I'd made a mistake. You were too smart to just accept my death. I knew you'd start investigating, and that made you a target. So I started trying to guide you, keep you safe without revealing myself. Until now, he agreed. Because Alex just informed me that Linda knows you've been asking questions, and she's decided you're a liability. My blood went cold. What does that mean? It means we're running out of time. The FBI raid is scheduled for 3 days from now. We just need to keep you and Emma safe until then. And how do you propose we do that when Linda and her people are watching us? Michael finally took my hand, and this time I let him. We give them what they want, he said. We make them think they've won, and then we take them down. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something I recognized in his eyes. The fierce determination of the man I'd married. The lawyer who'd built his career on finding truth in the rubble of lies. What's the plan? I asked. He smiled slightly. You're not going to like it. Michael, I haven't liked anything about the past week. Tell me. He leaned in close and began to explain. And he was right. I didn't like it at all. But I understood why it was necessary. The plan was simple, which made it terrifying. I would contact Linda and tell her I wanted to talk, that I was ready to stop asking questions to accept Michael's death and move on. But I needed closure. First, I needed to understand why things happened the way they did. Linda, Michael explained, wouldn't be able to resist. Her ego was too big. She'd want to gloat to show me how clever she'd been, how I'd never stood a chance against her. She'll meet you, Michael said. Somewhere she feels safe, somewhere she can control the situation. And then what? Then the FBI gets everything they need. Alex will wire you. You just need to get her talking about Theodore, about the money laundering, about staging my death. And if something goes wrong, Michael's face darkened. I'll be there. I won't let anything happen to you. 2 days later, I sent the text to Linda. We need to talk, just you and me. I have questions that only you can answer. Her response came within minutes. Of course, dear. I've been waiting for you to reach out. There's an old warehouse on River Street. It used to be one of your father-in-law's properties. Meet me there tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. The location didn't surprise me. Linda always had a flair for the dramatic. The warehouse loomed against the gray November sky like something out of a nightmare. Broken windows, rusted metal siding, weeds growing through cracks in the pavement. I parked my car and sat for a moment, feeling the wire taped against my skin beneath my sweater. Alex had installed it that morning, his face professionally neutral as he explained how it worked. Emma had been at a doctor's appointment, or at least that's what Alex had told her. The lies kept multiplying, each one necessary, each one corrosive. You're very brave, Mrs. Hayes, Alex had said quietly. I'm not brave. I'm angry. He'd smiled slightly at that. Even better. Now walking toward the warehouse entrance, I felt that anger like a steel rod in my spine keeping me upright. Linda was waiting inside, illuminated by dusty light filtering through the high windows. She wasn't alone. 2 men in dark suits flanked her security, I assumed, and there, standing slightly behind them, was Alex. My son-in-law looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Warning apology. It didn't matter. We both had our roles to play. Elizabeth, Linda's voice echoed in the empty space. I'm so glad you came to your senses. Did I walked closer, my footsteps loud on the concrete floor. I'm not sure I have any sense left. My husband is dead. My daughter is barely speaking to me. And I keep finding things that don't add up. Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. Grief does that. It makes us see conspiracies where there are none. Is that what happened to Theodore Blackwood, grief-induced conspiracy theories? The smile flickered. Theodore was unstable. Tragic, really. He was murdered. He killed himself, Linda corrected smoothly. The police report was very clear. I took another step forward. The same police report that said Michael died in a car fire on Route 27, the same report that used dental records that were never actually sent. For the first time, Linda's composure cracked slightly. Her eyes narrowed. You've been very busy. You taught me to be thorough. All those years of family dinners, you'd talk about how details matter in business, how the smallest oversight can bring down an empire. I stopped a few feet away from her. Is that what Michael and Theodore found, the oversight in your empire? Linda studied me for a long moment, then laughed a cold, brittle sound. You want to know the truth, Elizabeth? Fine. I'll tell you. She walked to a dusty window looking out at nothing. Do you know what it's like to build something from nothing? To take a failing real estate company and turn it into a multi-million-dollar operation. I know you worked very hard. Hard. She spun to face me. I sacrificed everything. My marriage, my 20s, my 30s. While Michael went to law school and everyone celebrated him, I was working 16-hour days to save our father's company. And when Dad died, do you know what he left me in his will? I didn't answer. A trust fund. A nice, comfortable trust fund while Michael inherited the law firm, the house, the legacy. Because I was the daughter and Michael was the son. Her voice was bitter. So yes, I built my own empire, and I did what I had to do to make it succeed. By stealing from clients, by laundering money through shell companies. By being smart, she snapped. By using the system the same way the system used me. Michael didn't understand that. He thought the law was about justice, about fairness. But the law is just another tool for people with power to keep it. So you killed Theodore when he found out. I didn't kill anyone, Linda said carefully. Theodore made poor choices. Michael made poor choices. I simply managed the consequences. You faked my husband's death. I gave him an opportunity to disappear, to start over somewhere new with a new identity. But he was too stubborn, too self-righteous. She looked at me with something like pity, just like you're being now. Then why am I still alive? Linda smiled. Because your family, Elizabeth, and because I thought you'd be smart enough to take the money I offered and move on. But you couldn't leave it alone, could you? You offered me money through the life insurance through Michael's estate, enough to live comfortably for the rest of your life. All you had to do was grieve quietly and disappear from my business. Your business that's built on fraud. My business that employs 300 people. That develops properties and creates value. Don't be so naive, Elizabeth. Everyone at the top bends the rules. Is that what you tell yourself? Before Linda could answer, a voice came from the shadows near the entrance. She tells herself a lot of things. Most of them are lies. Michael stepped into the light. Linda's face went white. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely shocked. You, she breathed. You're supposed to be dead. Michael walked toward us slowly. I know. You did a very thorough job of making everyone believe that. The burned car, the falsified dental records, the rushed funeral. Very impressive. How did I survive? Or how did I know you were behind it? He stopped next to me, and I felt his presence like an anchor. Both answers are the same. I'm not as stupid as you think I am, Linda. Linda's hand moved toward her purse, but one of the security guards stepped forward, and I realized with a shock that he wasn't her guard at all. He pulled back his jacket to reveal an FBI badge. I wouldn't do that, Ms. Collins, he said calmly. Linda looked around wildly, finally understanding the trap she'd walked into. Alex stood impassive, his face carefully blank. You, she spat at him. You were working with them. I was doing my job, Alex said quietly. Elizabeth, tell me you have every word of that, Michael said softly. I nodded, touching the wire beneath my sweater. Linda's face twisted with rage. You self-righteous hypocrite. You think you're so noble, so pure, but you're just as much a manipulator as I am. You lied to your own wife. I lied to protect her, Michael said. You lied to enrich yourself. There's no difference. The warehouse door burst open. Emma stood there breathing hard, her face wild with confusion and fear. Mom, what's going on? Why did you text me to... She stopped seeing Michael. The color drained from her face. Dad, everything happened too fast. Emma stumbled forward, her hand reaching out like she was seeing a ghost. Alex moved toward her instinctively. Linda's hand went into her purse, really went this time fast and desperate. Emma, get down, Alex shouted. But Emma was frozen, staring at her father. Michael pushed me aside and lunged toward Emma just as Linda pulled out a small handgun. The sound of the gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. But it wasn't Linda who fired. The FBI agent had his weapon out, aimed at Linda, who dropped her gun with a cry. But in the chaos, someone else had fired one of Linda's actual security guards who'd been hiding in the rafters. Alex went down hard, clutching his shoulder blood spreading across his shirt. Emma screamed. Everything became noise and movement. FBI agents swarming in from every entrance. Linda on the ground being cuffed. The security guard dropping his weapon and surrendering. And Emma falling to her knees beside Alex, her hands hovering over his wound, not knowing where to touch, tears streaming down her face. Alex, oh God, Alex, I'm okay, he gasped. I'm okay, it's just my shoulder. You lied to me. She was sobbing now, her hands pressed against his wound to stop the bleeding. You lied about everything. Emma, I can explain. You were FBI. This whole time our marriage was... She couldn't finish the sentence. Alex's face was gray with pain, but his eyes were desperate. Emma, please. I love you. That was never a lie. I love you. Don't. She pulled her hands away, looking at the blood on her palms like she didn't recognize them. Don't say that to me right now. Paramedics rushed in. Michael pulled me close as we watched them load Alex onto a stretcher. Emma stood frozen, shaking, refusing to look at any of us. I went to her, wrapping my arms around my daughter. She collapsed against me, sobbing like she used to when she was small and the world had hurt her. Mom, I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. I know, baby. I know. Over her head, I met Michael's eyes. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. Older and sadder and more human than the man in the coffin had ever been. Linda was being led away in handcuffs, still shouting about lawyers and persecution and how this would never hold up in court. But we all knew it would. The warehouse fell quiet except for Emma's crying and the distant sound of sirens. Michael approached slowly like Emma was a wild animal that might bolt. Emma, he said softly. She pulled away from me and turned to face him, her eyes red and swollen. Dad? They stood there for a long moment. Then Emma did something I didn't expect. She walked up to him and hugged him so tightly I thought she might break. Michael closed his eyes, his face crumpling as he held his daughter. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. You let me think you were dead. Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. You let me bury you. I know. There's no excuse. Emma pulled back, looking between Michael and me. Did Mom know? Not until a few days ago, I said. He kept it from both of us. To protect you, Michael added. I know how it sounds, but everyone keeps saying that, Emma said, her voice breaking. That they lied to protect me. But all I feel is betrayed. She walked away from us toward the warehouse entrance where the last FBI agents were gathering evidence. Michael started to follow, but I caught his arm. Let her go, I said quietly. She needs time. We all need time, he said. But he looked like a man who'd just realized time might not be enough. 6 months later, the trial ended. I sat in the courtroom as the judge read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, attempted murder. Linda showed no emotion, sitting perfectly straight in her designer suit, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Even in defeat, she refused to appear broken. 25 years without possibility of parole. The other conspirators received lighter sentences, deals made in exchange for testimony. But Linda had refused to cooperate, had insisted on her innocence until the end. When they led her away, she looked directly at me. Not with hatred, but with something almost like respect. You won her eyes, seemed to say. But at what cost, Michael and I left the city the week after the trial. We didn't go back to our old house. Couldn't. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Instead, we found a small cottage near the ocean in a town where nobody knew our story. I planted a garden, something I hadn't had time for in years. Michael built a shed in the backyard and filled it with woodworking tools, learning to make things with his hands instead of words. We didn't talk about Linda, didn't talk about the lies or the year we'd lost. Some wounds were better left to heal in silence. Emma visited once a month. She'd moved out of the city too, gotten her own apartment, started seeing a therapist. She was quieter now, older in ways that had nothing to do with age. Alex had recovered from the gunshot. He'd resigned from the FBI and taken a job teaching criminal justice at a community college. He sent Emma letters every week, long detailed letters explaining everything he couldn't say before. Why he'd joined the investigation. How he'd fallen in love with her. How every moment of their marriage had been real to him, even if the circumstances weren't. Emma never replied, but she kept the letters. One evening, as Michael and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, I asked him the question I'd been holding for months. Do you regret it? Any of it? He was quiet for a long time. I regret the pain. I regret what it cost us. But the truth, he looked at me. The truth was necessary, even when it destroyed things. And us, did it destroy us? He took my hand. His fingers were calloused now from working with wood so different from the lawyer's hands I'd known. I don't know, he said honestly. Did it? I thought about the question. About trust, broken and slowly, painfully rebuilt. About love that had survived death, real and faked, and lies and revelations. Ask me again in a year, I said. He smiled. Fair enough. 3 weeks later, Emma called. Mom, is Dad there? He's in the shed. Do you want me to get him? No, She paused. Alex came by yesterday. My heart clenched. And we talked. Really talked. For the first time since everything happened. Another pause. He cried. I've never seen him cry before. What did you say to him? I told him I didn't know if I could forgive him, but I wanted to try. Emma, don't say it's brave, Mom. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being angry all the time. Her voice cracked. Is it possible to love someone and not trust them, to want to fix something you're not sure can be fixed? I looked out at Michael in his shed sawdust and his hair, building something I couldn't see yet. Yes, I said. It's possible, but it's the hardest thing in the world. Yeah, Emma whispered. Yeah, it is. After we hung up, I walked out to the shed. Michael looked up from his workbench, a question in his eyes. That was Emma. She's talking to Alex. Is that good or bad? I don't know, but it's something. He nodded, understanding. In this new world we were building something was often the best we could hope for. That night I stood at the edge of the ocean, letting the cold water touch my feet. Michael came and stood beside me. You know, he said, at my funeral when I looked at you I was saying goodbye. I thought that was the last time I'd ever see you. And now? Now I think maybe I was saying hello, to whatever comes next. I turned to face him. Michael, I forgive you. Not because I've forgotten or because it doesn't matter, but because staying angry is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. He touched my face gently. I don't deserve that. Probably not, but I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. We stood there as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere behind us in the cottage we were learning to call home, my phone buzzed with another letter from Alex to Emma. Somewhere in a federal prison, Linda sat in a cell, her empire reduced to memories. Somewhere in the world, other people were living other lives, making other choices, breaking other hearts. But here at the edge of the ocean with my husband who died and lived again, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happiness, not yet. Maybe not ever, but peace. And for now, that was enough.